Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Challenge Season 40 Battle of the Arrows or RHAP podcast for episode 13. I am Brian Cohen. With me, as always, is my co-host, Lasher. Ali, how are you?
Ooh, 13. Unlucky number. How appropriate. How are you?
Fits the theme, yeah. Doing, as you would say, what was it? Mike, on a macro level, okay. On a micro level, bad. Yeah, probably.
Well, I would say the reverse, but you have to live
Okay,
your truth, you know?
so I don't know. Whatever it is, all bad. But we're doing good. I'm happy to be here. Fun episode. Happy to talk challenge.
I mean, I was making a comment that I thought this was a bad episode when I said it was an unlucky number 13, but also extremely valid on a macro level. On a micro level, I was unlucky, and on a macro level as well. I think we've been circling around like what'll happen if there's no episode. And last week we were like, still great. This week's edition of There's No Episode, I felt a little bit more like, oh, there was no episode.
Yeah, this was definitely one where if cable television had flexibility, could have been shorter. If this was Paramount Plus, this one could have been like a 26-minute throwback episode. And it's like not that it was bad, like the daily and the eliminations, there was intrigue and drama, but the fact that there was just quite literally no decisions to make for an entire reality TV competition episode. There's only so much they can do. Obviously, they got their feet content that they wanted to get involved in. They can do whatever they want there. But other than that, there wasn't a lot they could do. I mean, this is not on the show. The editors, like, there's no decisions. But there's literally no decisions. There's only so much, of an episode they can make.
It's a little bit on the show, right? Because I think this was sort of a criticism prepared to be leveled on the format, that they've created a format where there could very easily be no show. Mm-hmm. So ideally in the format design, you'd, steal against this. But it does raise the question, and I'll go right to it. Like, should there be a mechanism in place where if a target wins, they name a replacement, because it's still in the hands of the other person to decide? So like in theory, if Cara had to nominate a replacement target, it's not then that she can immediately put them in. Jordan is still the decision maker. I feel like that's kind of an easy fix that would have given us an episode.
Could we also have dusted off the shed, broke out an old tool? Could we get the hopper back in the mix, where all targets are off the table, we get the hopper going, it spits out a new target and just drops them in the mix?
Why not bother? Okay, woo! Why not borrow from one of your favorite terrible shows, Big Brother? Yeah, come at me. No, but like, why not borrow from Big Brother? If you win the veto, aka the challenge that gets you off the block, you name your replacement.
Yeah, that could easily work. Easily. They could definitely do that. They could. There's a lot of different things they could have done that would have prevented a no decision format. It's amazing how close we've gotten. Like how many times one of the targets has lost or won. Considering there's still like a decent amount of people left. It wasn't like there was like 4 people left, and it was just like the odds were pointing towards this. There were still 7 women at the time, so it was still pretty unlikely to have the winner and the loser from this mix. But here we are.
And we get an interesting, and again, another like establishing throwback segment from Evelyn being like, do I throw the challenge against, what was it, Kellyanne?
Yep.
I wasn't sure how that was going to play out. I guess I should have, when the title of the episode was Best Friends Forever, which I do think is like the first title of an episode that I've like enjoyed. Not that I haven't enjoyed the others, just I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. That ends up being
has there been a theme for the this is the first one I've noticed. Has there been a theme for the episode titles? Like, do they all have era, or
yes, they all have era in them. I could pull them up really quickly. The Era Invitational parts 1 and 2. Okay, cool. A Fatal era. Then we have My Trivia era. Then we have Trust in Your era. Then we have the Era of the Gladiator. A little shoehorned. A New Era. Payback era. The Era of the Purge. And Best Friends Forever. Like, now it makes sense that was the only one we know.
So most of them, so that's really one of the first ones where the era is like not a pun. I don't know, but it's not meaning like most of them.
You
The
could say
era
pun.
is, but is that a pun? I don't know.
It's a pun in this house.
Sure. But yeah, most of them have been like, oh, this is I'm in my flop era, things like that. So here they're kind of shoehorning in era. But yeah, okay, good for them.
You know what's like funny, since we don't have an episode, so I could just say whatever I want,
Please.
within reason. So Bananas like breaks in like the Kool-Aid man through the door when he's coming back in. And I feel like I remember back in the day when people used to get hammered and like throw tables and cause damage, they'd get like billed by production for the damage they would cause, be it on the challenge or like the real world. You think Bananas is getting a bill for the door he broke through?
It's a good question. What is the deposit that they have to put on this challenge house? It's got to be pretty high. Yeah, I'll mark that one down whenever I never do exit interview again. I'll ask. But that is, what did you have to pay for the broken door? Did that come out of your podcast bill? Your what did it come out of?
Yeah, I don't know, because that felt like incidental contact. That didn't feel like a drunken like rage. That was like anybody could have opened the door and it would have fallen apart.
Probably. But going back to the clip of Evelyn and Kellyanne, was there any part of you, because when they were setting up the eventual elimination, was there any part of you that thought Michelle was just going to throw it for Olivia?
No, and this is like maybe annoying because I'm taking what already isn't that much to talk about and lopping it off in half. But like when the only intrigue of the edit, so I didn't really think about it when I was watching Evelyn's clip, but as it became clear it was going to be Olivia versus Michelle, and I had the clip in the background, I didn't think so, only because the only possible intrigue of the whole episode was Michelle going to nominate Corey as a target or Derek as a target? And once they locked in Olivia's targets, I was like, okay, Michelle is going to win. Right. And I just didn't see either of them throwing it to their own credit. So I did not get fooled by the talking image.
Did Evelyn. You buy them really building each of them up for this friendship? Because obviously coming off 39, like they were, that season ends with like this group being splintered. It even comes into this season with Olivia, Nerys, and Michelle like being completely splintered from what happened with 39. And I guess like the Reese and Olivia battle to start the season cleansed everything, and then they were just like obviously forced to work together. But were you buying how much they were selling of the Michelle and Olivia best friends forever era mantra that they were trying to push?
I think so, right? Like not to the level where I think they would throw it for each other, but I think even in the last season, I think Olivia and Michelle were sort of a problem for Nerys and Olivia. Like I think that was part of what happened for Olivia to hurt Nerys, is that like Michelle, right, and like Mariah and Jay hatched a plan to like include Olivia but screw Nerys. Right? Isn't that so? I think that friendship was, established. And then certainly coming into this season, that's been the storyline once Nerys was gone, right? The ladies of leisure, Olivia and Michelle, they've both lost their boyfriends. They really only have each other. And now it's sort of the final conclusion of that side of the house is Olivia and Michelle going head to head.
Yeah. It's considering we just have seen other really strong friends or even like partners go head to head. It's not Casey and Nerys, Casey and Nany going against each other. Like it's
Casey
not
and Nerys.
Yeah, like they've had other bigger moments like that, and it's like to sell us on this. It's like, womp womp.
Yeah, fair enough, right? Like it's certainly not something that's going to like come between their friendship. And frankly, I don't think either of them has a chance to win. So it also doesn't feel like the two of them have battled it out and are in such a power position and are now getting screwed and have to go against each other. It's not like a Cara and Laurel even, where it's like just big titans of the game, like an enemies, frenemies, like, but I do think like it's more of a story, frankly, of Michelle's story of just being absolutely beaten down at every turn. And I am frankly worried about Michelle staying in the house and where she goes from here without Olivia.
Like mentally, you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, game
Yeah.
wise, they weren't helping each other. They were going to continue to be targets every other week anyway. But from where Michelle seems to be at in this episode, I'm a little worried about her in the game.
Yeah, she seems to be in a pretty dark place, especially like the night out. She was like even best case scenario, she's like, I'm knocking out one of my friends, and then I have to choose between two of my other friends to be targets. Yeah, it's not great for Michelle, and yet this is probably like one of the toughest seasons on her mentally. But it's like the best she's done performance wise. Like, yeah, she made it far in 39, but a lot of that was like her group kind of controlling things. Like, I think we even noted like she was almost like never in power. Actually, it was just like the friends around her in power. And here she's now 3-0 in eliminations. She's staved off a purge, beating Laurel in the mix. Like, this is the best physically she's ever done, and it's against like the best crop of women that her or anyone else has had to face. So yeah, she probably won't win, but it's a hell of a performance she's putting up.
No, and not that Michelle needed like a star turn in the way that would typically be used. Like she already was sort of having in my mind like a full-time ticket punched here if she wanted it. But it is a little bit of a star turn in terms of like the audience. Michelle's always going to have her fans, her stans from Survivor and otherwise, and she deserves them. She's had far more ups and downs on the challenge. I think she comes away from her relationship with Jay with a little bit of some stains on her, some bad gameplay, some weird like romantic issues. And here it's just like she and Devin are the most likable, like they've been probably together than they've been separately on the show.
Yeah.
And everybody loves an underdog. Michelle has absolutely nothing to lose. She's going to go in week after week. She's coming at one of the most like love to hate guys on the show in Bananas. And she's like standing formidably against him and trying to be sort of like the David to his Goliath. And that's a very likable place to be. It's the same thing like Tori's kind of coming from, but she's not as much of an underdog.
Yeah. No, 100%. 100%. We see two different instances of people really trying to like restart drama throughout this episode, starting with Bananas, and then comes back around on him later. But Bananas tries to get the ball rolling again with the Michelle and Josh at all, about Michelle being upset with Josh, cheering for both sides, and getting them kind of both riled up with each other, which is classic Banana Man move.
Yeah, this was tough because it's really like Josh is such an easy target. And, I've been on Bananas' side the last few episodes, I think much to the dismay of our audience, but not just me, but us. But you're less of a surprise. I do think this was a bridge too far for Bananas, like in terms of the obvious like production interference that he's doing. And like, he's on a high. So let's just leave Michelle alone again from like I'm an audience reacting to the stimulus myself. So like that's part of the experience is I'm like, oh, here comes Bananas, making everybody look like idiots, being a jerk, getting the reaction he wants. But Josh and Michelle are such easy targets. And what was so interesting to me is Michelle knows better, right? She's screaming, don't give Bananas the reaction he wants.
Right.
Like he wants to get us to fight. But she's saying that while she's screaming, which is very relatable to me as a somewhat rational but highly emotional person. Is like, I know I shouldn't be doing this. It's like poor Michelle.
Yeah, and she's also doing it while trying to, make a post-elimination snack, which is just classic real-world challenge scene. The type of thing that's like rare in the reality shows. You get Derek trying to teach Michelle how to cook over. I think this was the first glimpse I saw. Before the season, I think it was Jordan who complained about the living conditions in the house, and everyone's like, it didn't seem that bad. I don't know. They got a nice out pool. They got pool, all this other stuff. They got their own rooms, sort of, with their own beds. This kitchen situation is very weird. It's very weirdly angled. I don't know if that's for like the smoke and the ventilation, but over the grill or whatever it was, you can't even like reach over. For someone who's tall, I feel like I would bang my head on that thing way too often. So this was the first glimpse I saw. Like, yeah, this house is very weirdly set up.
Yeah, we've seen this section where like Kylan and Laurel, like Kylan and whoever else, Theo, I guess, was on Laurel's side, like have like a Kiki in this little side kitchen. It's been very bizarre. This house is really hard to like get a handle on the layout and the setup, and like why inexplicably there's like I don't know, like Red Rocks in Colorado, like seating, like why there's just like this huge, why isn't that the kitchen? Like, why do we need this amphitheater? I don't really understand that, but very bizarre. Very, very funny of Derek to be continuing to try to give instructions on like making a burger or whatever he's making. Very eating the cup of noodles like in a fight.
Yep.
Like like you said, very classic. Loved that scene. I was less of a fan of the other scene you were getting to about the whole foot thing of it all. And Stephanie Hurt wrote in the Facebook group, me wondering why the foot talk is going on so long at the beginning of this ep. And that cracked me up because they do establish how the Bananas / Rachel's Angels all give foot massages and you're in or you're out based on the quality of your foot massage. That was a weird time suck until it gets to Michelle on the bus. Another throwback, a bus scene,
Yes.
fighting on the bus.
Especially involving Bananas, because obviously the banana cam kind of morphed from his time on the bus. I think it was involving Cara and other shenanigans that may have been happening on a bus. That's kind of where the banana cam really came from. And it was fun to have him be on the other side. But I think this was just like challenge production filming, which means they always film the bus, and this is just the first time. I find that really hard to believe that with these hot-headed personalities, with all the stuff that's gone down, this is the first time in the entire season that there's been anything worthwhile to show from the bus. But it must be. They would show it if there was. It's wild that would be the case.
I mean, it begs the question if they always do this, and then it's like, where's the footage of Jay and Olivia? Or maybe since last season they've started doing it because they don't want to miss this footage of Jay and Olivia. I don't know. It's also like these people are like annoying athletes now. Like we got that scene of like the breath work and Jordan like up to his hips in those like fancy compression like boots. But like I could see all of these geezers like sleeping and like doing breath work and meditation on their way back from the challenge instead of fighting. This did seem like an outlier. We won't know until Maria Menounos rolls the footage of the shit they should have shown at the reunion. But I agree with you. If they had something juicy, they'd probably show it.
It's just so funny to see them go back on the bus like they're coming back from a day of camp. It's like they're excursion for the day. They're all like dirty and sweaty. They're hopping up on the bus and they just want to go back to their dorms and like shower and cool off. It's just a very bizarre scene.
Let's talk about this fight though, because it irritated me, perhaps not for maybe for the reason everyone's irritated. We'll see. Like, so the setup, right, is that like Aviv and Banana's feet kind of like hang quite innocently into the bus aisle. Mm-hmm. And Michelle like makes an allusion to it being inappropriate between Aviv and Bananas. Bananas flies off the handle. Aviv handles it pretty maturely. Where was Bananas' sense of morality and moral compass when Laurel did this very thing to Darrell with Emily? Right. I appreciated that they rolled the footage of Emily and Darrell when Rachel was kind of saying, we all touch each other, we take care of each other, whatever. But suddenly Bananas is on this moral high ground and Michelle is so desperate. What a desperate loser she is to take such a low blow. But when one of your angels, fell and did that, it was fine.
Mm-hmm. And what's amazing I felt about all of this was the act was so innocent, but like his reaction, it's like Dolph protests too much. It almost made me think, is there something's happening between Bananas and Aviv? Like this, it feels like nothing. And the fact that he's getting so riled up about it maybe makes me think that there is. But Aviv being so calm about it, being like, this is so stupid, I'm not reacting. He's like, no, he's reacting like that because he's the banana man and this is what he does. And he is now going over the top at Michelle and doing all that. So like, the fact that Aviv was so calm about it reassured me that no, this is just like, I don't know, a foot touching in a bus. It's nothing.
Yeah, I think Bananas just objective overreaction. I agree. I think people will say that, like, you wouldn't be so mad if it was ridiculous. I think it was more just like he truly hates Michelle. And to me, it's like, do you think this is going to extend past this season, or this is just two people who otherwise got along, ended up on the opposite sides of the house and on each other's last nerve?
I think it's just of the season, especially because for Michelle's game, it's like not good for it to continue. Like having Bananas as like a long-term enemy is not ideal for really anyone. So for her, it would be it's bad that she's in this situation to begin with because she could have had Bananas an ally. Like Bananas kind of forced her into this position, and she just has to kind of go with it. But like starting clean with a fresh season, I'd be very surprised if they weren't on better terms.
Yeah, I agree that this isn't like life ruining, relationship ruining totally. I just think it's really going to depend the next makeup of the season that they're on together, right? Because I think if it's her and Devin and Tori and this, the same Vacation Alliance people plus Michelle, after Devin and her have been dating for a long time and presumably hanging out with those people now with Michelle included, if she doesn't need Bananas, I don't think they're going to like rush to work together like a Josh and Banana situation where she'd kind of cross the line for him. And it's ironic because when I almost called him Dave, like I'm a part of this. When Devin tried to kind of get Michelle to cut off Bananas, she's the one who defended keeping a relationship with him.
Right.
So I think Bananas really made like a bad bet on Michelle here, and it could have probably helped Bananas out in future seasons to maintain the connection with Michelle, which who then will be connected to this group of people he's otherwise not very connected to. But yeah, I think if it's a similar cards are dealt in the upcoming seasons, I don't see them really getting back together so quickly.
Yeah, and honestly, I probably think it'll really not even be determined by Michelle. It'll probably be determined by Devin because as we see with like how him and Cara are, it's a lot of it determined by how him and Paulie are and the way that Banana Man works. It's not necessarily his relationship with the women. It's the relationship with the women who's dating the man and how his relationship was with that man. So if if Bananas and Devin are good, then he and Michelle will be good. And if Devin has like a falling out and wants to target Bananas, then him and Michelle won't be good. So that's probably more where it might be determined.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely usually his style. And I would say that's what happened with Devin and Tori, like Tori and Bananas with Devin, and to a certain extent, Jordan. I think here it is ironic because it was like Bananas was trying to use his relationship with Michelle and keep it going, and he mishandled it so disastrously that he can't he can't be trusted to maintain a relationship with a woman who's not an angel. Let's get to the daily though.
Yeah, let's get to the daily.
I don't know what it was called.
All right, we're back.
Oh, what was it called?
It was called 40-Yard Dash.
I feel like I've been waiting a 6-hour commercial to hear what it was called.
40-Yard Dash in groups versus the women, then the men, then the Michelle being penaltied. Run out and collect 6 puzzle pieces, and they have to run them back and put together a pyramid using their balls and shapes.
Yeah, I was fine with this challenge. Like I liked it. I thought it was a good challenge. Everyone can run it together. Love that. Can't complain about that. Pretty standard.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of an iteration of things we've seen before where you like run out to checkpoints, but they were all just in the 40, shape. Do you think they needed to penalize Michelle considering she was really second to last and the fact that you'd be purged could have been enough of a penalty?
Did they have to? Probably not, I guess, but for the letter of the law, I think it fits in. I mean, it wasn't local shock. He said it before the purge last week. Like whoever finishes second to last does get the penalty. So I'm fine with it.
I feel like I wouldn't have mind like a reset. Like the purge does kind of feel like a reset, and I know the man was immune. Whoever won that, Kylan, but I wouldn't have minded a reset. I think that's just because like the result is it keeps being Michelle, and I'd like to like give her a chance to not have the 1 minute disadvantage going into the challenge. But here's my other question. Jenny and Rachel decide to work together. What was the advantage here? Is it just like keeping pace and like motivating each other? It wasn't like you're finishing checkpoints when you run together.
I guess, it was helping. Each of them were helping them get through the checkpoints, right? Like lifting up the ropes and moving things around, moving the mud around to help them move a little bit faster. Because the way they explained it in their mind was like, we just have to make sure we don't finish last. That's all we have to do as women who are not targets. The only thing we have to do is don't finish last. We don't go in, and it helps ensure probably 2 of like Michelle and Olivia will go in. So if one of us wins, great. But ideally, we're finishing second, third, fourth, whatever, and we'll help each other out.
Yeah, I guess the other thing is like if you want to win, so you block Cara. Like if you're really motivated for some reason to getting one of the targets in, you want to win so that the targets can't be immune. But I didn't really feel like it felt like an extreme advantage or disadvantage to run together. It didn't feel like such a big like, oh, you're sacrificing your chance to win,
Mhm.
especially because you're then going to have this puzzle that they didn't seem to work together on.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is each of them running separately probably would have done just as well, just because they are both very good, especially Rachel at this type of thing. That I don't know if it necessarily helped them that much, but if it helped their confidence while doing it, then like their reassurance while they're doing it, then maybe that's all they really needed.
So also interesting strategic stuff that I actually originally thought the Evelyn foreshadowing was more about this when Jordan kind of says during the challenge, first of all, he wants to keep bananas in so that he like avoids being a target, but he also doesn't want to have to like choose between the women he's working with. I thought Jordan was going to throw this challenge as a result of that comment because
Mm.
I didn't think he wanted to be in a winning spot. And he ends up finishing before Cara. So it's not like he's making a decision where Cara wins and then he's like, oh, I'm unlikely to have to choose. So I will also win. Should Jordan have won this challenge or should he have thrown it?
I think at this point it is good to win because it takes him off the board for the target list as we see it played out. So I think now you're getting down to it. Like there's you might only have one more men's elimination. So now if you're Jordan, you win this one, he might have just punched his ticket to the final potentially by winning this. So at this point, you take any level of safety you can get, and if you have to make a decision, it's not for Jordan, he's not picking between Tori and someone else here. Like it would have sucked to have to like pull the plug on his relationship with Cara or whatever, but it's not a huge deal breaker for him.
I agree. And we've seen Jordan like claim to have thrown it and wink at the camera like so many times. Like, I came to see the pay-per-view fight. Like I came to see Jordan win. I loved when Jordan won and said like I've got to send a message to Kylan like you think you're going to three-peat? Like I don't think so. I could still win dailies. Like I want to see them performing, at their best. And then speaking of their best, shout out to Cara who wins and then gives an iconic line of like I didn't need a man to save me. I say myself, I am the man.
Hmm.
That was
Yeah,
fun for Cara to see her get a win.
yeah, good for Cara. Obviously, much needed. Would have been interesting to see how the decision would have played out if she would have went in, but obviously, or if she was an option to go in, but she takes herself off the board, gets her big win. It's a great moment, but she still always acts surprised, right, when she does well, and it still irritates me a little bit. She still always has that like unnecessary underdog thing about her where it's like, Cara, like, yes, it's a great time to win. You pulled out when you needed it, but also you're Cara Maria. It's not that crazy that you're going to win a daily like this. I want her to like just have that extra like belief that like this is not surprising that it's going to happen. I don't know. It just irked me a little bit, a little bit.
Yeah, no, I mean, slay, build her up. I love this. But I think I'll take this over like Laurel.
Sure. Well, I'd
But
be
I
taking it for
agree they
Laurel
could
for
meet in
sure.
the middle. Like it is fun to see someone like confident. Like it's definitely fun to see her like pump herself up in the confessional. But I do think that insecurity is coming from like one genuine insecurity and two like more of an insecurity in her social place in the house that she's like not able to sort of land it and that's kind of like it's good time for me to get a win. I needed to get one. Like
Hmm.
who figured I could even do this? Like maybe she thinks that's more likable. I don't know.
Did the shoe? This is a side note. The shoe that Aviv lost. Do we know if it was the shoe of her bad foot, or like was she running with one bad foot and one no shoe, or one fully intact foot and shoe, and one completely barefoot like no shoe? Do we know
The
that?
shoe, so you're saying is the lost shoe the shoe that covered her tight fascia or her regular fascia?
Correct. That's the question.
I don't know. I feel like I did see her kind of like hop off, like hop away after she
Hmm.
won, and I was like, oh, we're back on the fascia train. Um, it's a good question. I mean, I think she might have been down to both shoes once Corey tells us there are 7 stray shoes in the mud,
Hmm.
not just Aviv, though she was the
Yeah.
first.
Yeah. I was surprised she wasn't the loser because again, I felt like they kept setting up the planner fasciitis gate. Obviously, this was involving that. She loses her shoe immediately. I was surprised we got the Michelle loss. So it fooled me, at least, as it was playing out.
I totally agree. It did kind of feel like a la Derek, like you set the tone of the injury, and then an episode or two later, they go home. So Corey gets in last place for the men, and it comes down to Aviv and Michelle. I was also rooting for Michelle. I feel bad to say that about Aviv, but I wanted there to be more intrigue in this episode. So I was very, very surprised when Aviv finished. I know we don't end up getting a deliberation. We know it's going to be Michelle versus Olivia. And Jordan says numerous times, like, if I don't have to decide, I won't. He won't even tell the confessional what he would have done. Fair enough. What do you think he would have done if he had the option between sending Cara or Olivia in against Michelle?
It's a good question. Glad you asked it.
Are
Probably not really, because I don't know the answer. I feel like probably Michelle, because I think Michelle had named Jordan.
Well, Michelle in this hypothetical, Michelle's going in because she lost. So
I thought you were saying who would you have chosen between Michelle and Olivia?
If Cara, I mean, I guess we could do that, but let's. I guess answer it however you want. I meant like Michelle still loses, Cara doesn't win. So between
all
Cara
three
and
are
Olivia.
all three are in play.
No, Michelle is going in. She lost.
Oh, okay. So between Cara and Olivia, got it.
We can run all the scenarios. We pretty much could wrap up after this. So
perfect.
Whatever.
I think it would be Cara. I think Jordan just has like a weird like annoyance with Cara. He would vote her in. So
it's interesting. I would think that Jordan would want Cara to stay because Cara is an asset in the final, I think, over Olivia or Michelle. And I think it's measurable.
I mean, we think that, but he has this weird thing with Cara in finals. Like in other seasons, he like ranks Cara like last amongst who he would want to see in a final. Like I agree, I would much rather run a final with Cara over Olivia or Michelle, but I just don't know if Jordan thinks that way.
So then the other question is, which I thought would cut against Cara, but maybe cuts for Cara based on Jordan's take, is would he consider Tori? Like Jordan could probably think he could run a final with anyone. I mean, he nearly won with Anissa, like before, if her ankle didn't get hurt, I think there's a shot he wins that with Anissa and Ryder dies. But would he consider trying to target a stronger person in an elimination that Tori doesn't have to go in to like help her out more?
Well, how could he throw in Tori?
No, he would throw in Cara so that Tori doesn't have to go in against Cara. Like, get rid of Cara in an elimination that Tori won't touch, either in the final or in a future elimination that Tori might have to go in.
Yeah, and I guess all three of them would probably choose Bananas as a target, so I don't think, like, if you want to make sure someone takes a shot at Bananas, I think all three of them would, so there's also the factor there. I mean, I guess if you wanted to try to make sure Kyland was a target, like he wouldn't want Michelle or Olivia thrown in, maybe like Cara might be more inclined to take a shot at Kyland as opposed to Michelle and Olivia, who've been more closely working with him. So if he wants Kyland on the chopping block, that could have been the route.
I don't know why you're making a good case. My gut said that he would have put in Olivia only because like I feel like he could make some speech of like he doesn't have that much of a relationship or a history with her and earn your stripes and blah blah blah. But yeah, it would have been more. It would have been interesting to see that play out.
I know this is like a very low bar, but are you surprised that they fully acknowledged like there was no decision, there's no chamber, it's Michelle and Olivia? I thought they were going to go through the charade of having Olivia go down to the chamber and like make like a pitch and then making some like stupid jokes and things like that. I was honestly surprised it didn't happen.
Yeah, I was even annoyed when they showed the chamber. I was like, come on. And then I liked that they said Jordan being like the one reward, the best reward for a win is not having to listen to them cry. And then we had to anyway. So there was really no difference between seeing the scene with Michelle and Olivia and seeing them in the chamber. But yes, I am grateful to production for not going through that and having them just like sit there and make no decision.
It did make me notice how much I do actually like the chamber music, though, that they play leading up to it. I know I've definitely noticed it through the season, but like the fact that it was hitting and I knew there was not going to be a chamber. I was like, oh, it's the chamber music. I'm glad they got that. I liked it. It was fun.
Yeah, I didn't notice it. I will clock it next week. Looking forward to it. The one advantage of the non-deliberation and the non-episode is we did get insight into, well, who would these people nominate as targets? And it did make me think, like, we have an hour and a half episode. Can we not see a little preview of the thought process behind who they'd make targets every single week?
Yeah, I don't know why that's not a bigger thing. Obviously, I guess what they're thinking is, well, for one person, it doesn't matter because they're just going to go home. But I would still be curious what their thought process would be, and then hear what some of the decisions would be for the person who wins. But I guess, yeah, they just want to keep it a secret, so that way it's a surprise when they make it. But I don't know. For the most part, we probably know most, like 2 out of 3 anyway. So, but even like if we're not sure who the third one is, let them be up for debate. And we got to see people making pitches based off that move, like Corey being like to Michelle, like, if you don't pick me, then I know we're working together, and Cara being like, well, when you get picked, we're working together. So there had to be more of those conversations that we could have seen. So yeah, I would have liked to see more of those on the show.
Yeah, the storytelling they've been moving towards in the last few seasons is like, we'll tell you what you need to know when it affects the end of this episode at the beginning of the episode. Even if the ladies of leisure have been established for 5 weeks, we're going to show you them in the beginning of the episode because they're going to fall apart and have to go against each other at the end. I think this was cool. This was sort of like a more traditional, like, story arc building process on reality TV. We used to have this more in The Challenge, where it's like, you're going to see the foundation of a strain between Michelle and Corey. Whereas maybe if this episode didn't have so little to do, we would have only seen them if we needed to, like next week when Corey nominates her or something. So I appreciated this. I'd like them to do sort of more longer term stage setting, foreshadowing earlier on.
Yeah, no, 100%. The Corey and Michelle thing will definitely be interesting. I mean, Corey kind of hints at it, but that's kind of been his kind of MO through this entire season, of him thinking he has people and then just like ripping the ball out from underneath him, Charlie Brown style. So that's kind of been his kind of MO his entire challenge career, is him thinking he has people and his social game just like not working. And I honestly think this has probably been his like best social game, and it's like still resulting in really no strong allies. He's now just like in a forced to work with Cara situation, which is probably like the best thing he's ever really had in the challenge world. So kudos for that, for like kind of falling in his face. But other than that, like, everything else is kind of falling apart.
If Corey and Cara can ride to the end on the wings of a prayer, and like literally just because all of their other allies have gone or they didn't have many others, and like even Corey looks at her in the face and was like, well, you'd have to be my number 2, but if my number 1 screws me, I'll promote you to number 1. Like, he didn't even need to say that. You can have 2 top girls in this format, most likely. Although maybe not, considering they're very likely to be nominated together, given the sides of the house. But Corey's almost too honest, I think, in that moment, but it ends up working out or not working out for him. I want to commend Corey because I thought the way he played Michelle, he played it with Michelle, was inspired. It was good. It didn't work, but I thought he applied the right amount of pressure. He made the right case of like, I don't have a number 1. You are my number 1. Not if you do this for me, just like, you're it. Let's do this. Now don't nominate me. And I think he did a good job continuing to apply that pressure while still being motivating to her and fun. And like, look, you have a lot on your plate, and understanding. He wasn't annoying. I don't think Corey could have done anything else. And I think that's all you can ask for.
Yeah, he gave it his best shot, but unfortunately for him, he's up against the king of the social game, Derek, who is putting together a social game like clinic for how he's navigated this entire game with so many different people. Everyone at this point, they're all just complimenting him. Banana's just straight up telling him, "You're playing an incredible game. Good for you. No one's coming at you." And he's just skating on by, making his tortillas and avoiding the drama, and not seeing an elimination.
Can I, jumping to the end, I feel like Michelle made the wrong decision choosing to save Derek over Corey. But maybe I just always want to believe in Corey, but I just feel like that was in her flop era, as you said.
Well, I kind of agree. But I'm torn if I actually agree or I just want to see Corey do well, and I'm like upset for the decision because I don't know if it's like necessarily that wrong of a decision. But why do you think it was the wrong one?
I don't think it's that wrong, but I think like I don't think it's like game ending for her. Like I don't think it's that material. Because at the end of the day, Corey still doesn't have that many places to go. So like it's still advantageous for him to try to work with Michelle and take a second stab at it. I thought Corey was convincing when he said, like, you're my number one and Derek has people in front of you. Even though Olivia's number one spot in Derek's lineup is now open and potentially available to Michelle, I still think he's playing a lot of sides of the house. I also think Derek is extremely unlikely to be targeted given his relationships, and Corey is more likely to find himself in the sand and win and then not have to nominate you. And I think that's more valuable than anything Derek can offer.
Yeah, I thought the other piece why I thought it was a bad decision was the fact that Corey has a penalty next week. So there is a chance he's going in anyway, right? Like he could just lose. And now if you didn't nominate him and you nominated Derek, and now it's like Corey versus Derek, there's probably a decent chance Corey's going to win that. And now if you didn't nominate him, he's now not going to say you. For the target.
I was trying to figure that out, that if it's better to nominate the person with the penalty because but what you're saying is it's better not to nominate the person with the penalty because they're more likely to go in because they increase their chance of being the losing person, and then if they don't lose, they're still up for being a target and they could go in anyway. Because but you don't want the person you're nominating to go. Okay, yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. So if she nominated Derek, the only problem is I don't think the penalty is a game-losing penalty. It has been for Michelle, but I don't think that it's because of the 1 minute penalty. So I think what it does do, what we've talked about, is it makes you unlikely to win more than it makes you more likely to lose from what we've seen. So if you nominate the penalty haver, they're not that likely to win, which doesn't really do it. So yeah, I mean, I guess in theory, if having a penalty at all makes you more likely to lose than not, then it's a good idea. I just think it doesn't really make you more likely to lose as it makes you less likely to win. And sorry, that took me 1,000 words to get there.
No, I think that I agree with that. And even if she nominates Derek, like who of the women that wins is gonna throw in Derek? Is it elimination? Even if like one of Bananas Angels wins, she's also nominating Josh. Well, I guess now Josh is sort of with the Bananas Angels, so that could have come back to bite her. Like if she nominates Bananas, Josh, and Derek, and let's say Rachel wins or Jenny wins, Derek's being thrown in.
But I think we're so late in the game that maybe it doesn't really matter, because I think if this were like earlier on and it was like establishing a relationship, Derek is less likely to go in the sand later in the game. It's not so much like what's going to happen next week. It's what's going to happen in the future. And Derek doesn't hit the sand often, so he's not going to be in a position to not target you if you're working with him. So he's, to me, not as valuable. You kind of want to be working with somebody like Michelle, who's high likely to be targeted and highly likely to win the elimination. That's your most valuable ally. And I think Derek is not likely to go into eliminations and not likely to win those eliminations. So he's not that valuable of a long-term ally. But maybe this like late in the game, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I think honestly what Michelle probably decided is what I think we kind of agree on, is like it's not that consequential of a decision, and she'd rather just see Derek do well. Like she likes Derek, she wants to see Derek make a final and do well, so she's not going to like risk it for the 1% chance it could help her game, sort of maybe, but probably does nothing for her game, and might as well just like help Derek get move one step closer.
Yeah. And I don't know that it like either of them would be that mad. Like I know Corey keeps saying like, well, Josh is on my list and it's personal, and now Cara is my number one. But what is he really gonna have the opportunity to do to Michelle? Like that's the other part of this game.
It will name her a target next week for sure. If Corey goes in and wins, like Michelle will be targeted.
But like that's what's interesting. Like Rachel and him had like like who has nominated Corey? Now I've written this down. But whatever. If I look at this and it's like, I still don't think you should name Michelle. Again, depending on how many weeks we have left to go, I don't think you should auto nominate Michelle because Michelle could still maybe be swayed. Like, let's rotate. We're good friends. You gave Derek the off, give me the off. Whereas there are people who are automatically going to say Corey. Like, who would Rachel say? Bananas, Kyland, and Jordan, but one of those is probably likely to win the challenge. And then who's next? Not Derek.
Rachel's not gonna say Bananas.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean Bananas. So even better. Like she's definitely gonna say Corey. Aviv would have to say Corey for the same reason. All the Angels would say Corey because they're not gonna say Josh and they're not gonna say Bananas.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like at least Michelle has some room to work with you, even if she didn't work with you this week. So I'm sure Corey's gonna do what you said, which is immediately nominate her. But I still think that's like not in his best interest.
Yeah, probably not. But by the time he gets to the next one, there might not be another one after that. So it might not matter.
All right, let's talk about this elimination. What's interesting, this was called Stranded, is I thought like the first part of it, the DNA ladder building, could have been the whole elimination.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it was giving very much throwback to the iconic one that Laurel lost, where she missed the peg and like did the whole dance. Like it was very similar to that. I don't like the word thing because that there's like some skill obviously to come up with the words, but it's a lot of it just has to just come to you in the moment when you're coming up with the words. It's not like you're doing a puzzle and you can like practice that more. I mean, obviously you can do more word games and stuff like that, but I don't know. The word one just feels like it's just like it just has to hit you in the moment. As opposed to like more of a puzzle specifically. So I don't like that. They could have just made the whole thing do something else of collecting the pieces. Like, I don't know, have a task you have to do to get the poles and then end it by building the ladder rather than ending it while doing a word thing. I would have liked a little bit more.
I think it was perfect just as it was without the word thing. The word thing doesn't bother me in another context. I just thought like the ladder itself was a puzzle. Puzzle, using the word puzzle loosely, but it wasn't just like physical on its own. You had to like look at the little pieces and match them up. So it was some sort of mental stimulation, and it looked physically grueling. And to climb that ladder is also grueling, and to have the art of like rappelling to get your sticks without bopping out the other things. I thought it was a pretty full, complete elimination, just as it was. Justice for Olivia. I think she won this elimination. Like I think like the word thing kind of completely erased what had gone before. Not in an equalizing way. I think the ladder building was pretty equalized on its own.
Yeah, especially with, I don't know if this was like known beforehand, but especially with Olivia telling us she's dyslexic, like that's basically a game changer. I feel like doing something like that is probably incredibly harder for her than Michelle, obviously. So yeah, it sucks for Olivia to go home like that. It's also kind of similar to see it play out with Michelle to the same way the elimination with Nia, where like they each had different strategies. And this one, the strategy didn't work for Michelle. She was obviously much lower than the one with Nia. So yeah, that was interesting to see how the decision making putting together the polls was.
Yeah, and like Nia, doing all the equations first, like didn't get a break in between running with the boxes. Here, I think like Michelle had the right instinct. If it was sort of a more predictable puzzle, I don't think it was like as easy to determine the order without actually putting them in the wrong, right? Because she goes with her first two pieces like she's ready and they don't fit. So I think that was a botch. But I knew girly pop Olivia was in trouble when she had hot in the first as the first word is like, the phrase definitely doesn't start with hot. So
I hope they play hot to go with this challenge elimination.
Yeah, exactly. It was not eliminated tonight. I was like, maybe it's You Killed It, and then I was like, oh, it's not. A little too short.
Yeah. So Michelle wins. Good for her. 3-0 eliminations. I mean, knocking off Olivia, Nia, and one other person who I'm blacking on. I don't know who should be, but someone else. I mean, 1-3, so go for her. And we see Olivia go home.
Now I'm just gonna look it up because I don't want to be added on any social media channels that exist, new or old. Yeah, she knocked out
Tina?
Olivia,
Tina?
Naya, and Tina.
Bang. Got it.
Good call. Boxster phobia. You remember what that was? Oh, is that when they had the clear things with the equations? It's Carell. Yeah, Carell. Kylan beat Darrell really quickly. Anyway. All right. If I were to tell you that Rachel, Tori, Michelle, Jenny, Aviv, and Cara would be your final 6 women on season 40, do you believe me?
Honestly, probably yes. Outside of Aviv, like, I mean, 4 of those 6 for sure. I mean, Michelle, you would think would have the social capital, maybe make it pretty far. That wouldn't be so outlandish. And Aviv, I mean, it's not that crazy if we found 6 women, honestly.
I think Jenny, from when we started the season, and Jenny was like her own teams, like voting her in and like not rotating to get her in. Got to give Jenny credit for bouncing back to find a new alliance outside of her era after that brutal rejection. I think Michelle having won 3 elimination, like fair enough. If I told you she got to the end, you'd be like, okay, yeah, social game. To have won 3 eliminations to be at the end here is pretty shocking. And Aviv, Aviv was like an LOL of casting. Right. So shout out to everyone, but definitely shout out to those 3 for, surviving against the odds and paving their way here.
Yeah. No, kudos to them.
All right. Drinking game?
Yes. The one also note, did you like, you think it's going to help her at all that Michelle tried to take the heat off herself when she named Corey? She's like, this is for Olivia. I don't think that's going to matter. I mean, it's worth the shot, I guess, to pass the buck to the person going home, but I don't think it's
I think Corey knew it was a tough sell. It was like about 50-50. And I think she did a good job, like being like, this is really hard. Like after Bananas, this is hard. I was more surprised that Josh didn't have like a more emotional reaction to being nominated, and he kind of like took it on the chin. Yeah. I don't think Corey would be as mad as like when Josh didn't help him out. I don't think he can expect that much from Michelle, but the Vacation Alliance has to stop doing this. It's very Tory, like working on behalf of Devin. Your girl's not in the house anymore. Act on your own accord. I as an audience member, didn't like it.
Yeah. I was very much wrong about the Devin cutout. I cannot believe we haven't seen that thing again. So.
No CT pro tips, no Devin cutout.
Crazy. The drinking game for last week, there were 10. 3 Alliance name mentions with all the Bananas Angels. Rachel got to plug her Rachel Fitness. One of the pictures coming to life. Bananas talking about his dad. Theo talking about his son for the kids and family. One mention of Vietnam. And a flashback in season. There's one of them.
So I'm very curious to see if the great Kyle Picard, and thank you to Kyle. I don't think we've really thanked him this season. So thank you, Kyle. I wonder if the Bananas bucket hat, the MTV, non-challenge MTV bucket hat will be counted as non-challenge merch or not. I don't know the answer. I'll wait to see the guidance from Kyle.
We shall see. Do you have one to add?
Yeah, if inspired by Bananas' own annoying, like I'm going to make my own Target bag band. And I think this is someone I could see maybe renewing for next season rather than getting a lot of play this season. But if someone dresses up for the arena, like if they've got like Derek, or I think Derek once wrote his sister's name on his arm, maybe
like the Brad Beard thing that's
the beard, or like making your own like Target band, like some dressing up for the arena.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna add, since we're nearing the end, a finisher drinking rule. If they add in a location change, I feel like everyone's complaining about the heat. I feel like they have to take note. They can't do a final in this heat. Let's do a location change for the final. So if they announce the location change, let's add that as a finisher drink.
If they do a location change, should we do a location change?
I could record somewhere else.
I mean, I have done a location change within my apartment.
Mm-hmm.
This is my second week from closer to the wall. Same wall in the background, just I'm closer to it.
Yeah, no, I'm down for that location change. We'll do it. Perfect.
Don't finish your drink. Change your location. Get up.
Yeah, everyone has to listen from a different place. So if you do it on your commute, you have to go a different way. You have to drive instead of train or vice versa. I don't know. You got to do something different though.
All right, cool. We're getting down to the final stretch here after episode 13. Thank you to Bruce 78910 for the 5-star review. Appreciate you.
Love it. Like 55 minutes for this episode. Good job by us, considering there was not one consequential decision made the entire hour and a half. So
I used 35 minutes to figure out if what would happen if Corey won.
Well, that's what we had to do. So we're down to the final 12. Yeah, so only probably 2, 3, maybe 3 weeks until the final. Getting down to it.
How many episodes do you think they're going to be? Because for anyone in the Facebook group, and please join, I'll give you my photo editing secrets. I do any photo editing I need to do on Snapchat. It's the only reason I still have Snapchat. So I've made the discussion topic, like the discussion thread picture on Snapchat. And I made episodes 1 through 7, then stopped. Then when we got to episode 7, made episodes 8 through 13. Or 12, but shout out to Josh Creek, I think, who made the one for episode 12 because I forgot to post it. And then I just made a new set starting at season 13, episode 13. So how many episodes do you think are going to be in this season? Do we know the answer?
I don't think so. But looking at the calendar, I feel like the challenge has done some crazy things over the years. They have. But I cannot imagine them putting a finale or reunion on Christmas or New Year's. So this thing has to end by the 18th, December 18th.
Now, I feel like there's precedent for them to take 2 weeks off in the middle of the season and rejoin us in January. We've definitely done that before on a podcast.
That would be wild if they're like,
we're done that
final,
though.
See you in a month. That would be crazy.
We've absolutely, it wasn't like at the final, but we have absolutely been like mid-season and had a holiday break.
So we're at the final 12, right? So I would say next week we're going to lose one. That's the 20th. The week after that, we'll lose another. We'll be the final 10 after the 27th. Maybe the 4th, we lose 2 more. The 11th is the finale. 18th reunion.
So you think they're going to go up against a Survivor?
They do that all the time. That's classic.
So that would be how many episodes?
So this was episode 13. So 14, 15, 16, 17. It would be the 18th. The 18th episode on December 18th.
If this doesn't say everything we know to know about ourselves, and now perhaps we're completely wrong and I wasn't really following you, so I'll just take your word for it. But I did only make through episode 18 in this latest batch. So
there you go.
Hopefully I don't have to reopen Snapchat till next season.
I mean, let's see. I can quickly open the IMDb. Let's see. Open IMDb and just see if they happen to. Sometimes they have the episode dates and stuff. So let's do a quick peruse for season 40.
If you just got spoiled right now looking this up.
That would be crazy. So on the IMDb, it does go up to episode 18. That's the last one they have listed. So
incredible.
Now, I don't know. That could be the finale, and then the reunion is on a different day or something like that. So I think we're gonna know the winner of the season, the absolute latest, December 18th.
Okay. Does it change anything for you that the Wikipedia only goes to 15?
Interesting.
And it has the names. Does IMDb have the names?
IMDb does not. It doesn't even have the name of what's today. Oh, it has that next week's episode. It's called the Swinging Era.
Yeah, Wikipedia is giving you 15. Thinking Thin Era. Okay, we'll see.
Is what, episode 15?
Apparently, no source.
Okay.
Actually, the source is the Fulton Critic. All right, we don't need to make this an hour just because we can. But
yeah, I think December 18th will be the reunion. That's my guess.
All right, well, that works out for me with my Snapchatting. But, the only way to find out is to go to the Facebook group and look at my episode discussion threads.
Amazing. Well, we'll be back for episode 14.
Wait, with plugs.
You can subscribe. Rob's website /challenge feed. Follow me on Twitter, Cohen Brian _ TikTok, challenge wrap ups. I did just join Blue Skies today. Probably Only day I'll check it, but who knows? I couldn't get Brian Cohen there. Somehow there's already someone there. It's probably that like political guy, Brian Tyler Cohen. He's like probably the most famous Brian Cohen on Twitter, unfortunately. So I got Cohen Brian. No underscore this time, so at least I got Cohen Brian. So you can check that out.
Yeah, I normally wouldn't have cared about the plugs. Just don't follow me anywhere, and we haven't done NGOG despite numerous promises from the Kiev man. But I did do a podcast with the great Matt Ligori and Sasha, also the great Sasha, on Dancing with the Stars yesterday, live. We're on video. They go live after the episode, which was we ended at midnight. I was tired. Your girl was tired, but we had a lot of fun talking about Dancing with the Stars. So check that out on YouTube. Check that out in the RHAP Ups feed. Find it wherever you get your podcasts. A lot of fun.
All righty. We'll be back next week for episode 14. Till then, happy Halloween. Have a good one.